Maybe. There we go. What's going on, everybody? It's hashtag Rogue Gang. I mean, this is sort of a rogue. Chris Moxley, Colin Decker. Dude, come on. I was trying to just roll with it.
All right.
Chris Moxley, Colin Decker here with me. We are going to be talking just an AMA. Any questions you guys have on the format? We're going to do a lot of startup talk as the master of propaganda, Felix Sharp, wants us to. It's the C2C month, and we're trying to get everybody any help that they need with this format. But I'm going to start this off the way Felix just absolutely loves it. How you guys doing tonight? Colin was just wolfing down some Sabaros. I mean, like, what's up? How are you guys doing? It's weird seeing you guys on a Friday night.
It is weird. I'm good. Yeah, a little bit of a late dinner here. I was running around earlier today. It's and I don't have to worry about this because my fiance doesn't watch any of this stuff. It's her birthday tomorrow. And I still had to go get her a birthday gift. So that's why it's a little bit of a late dinner.
Yikes, cutting it close. I mean, congrats to you for actually getting it done. But man, yeah, that's dangerous. Dangerous game you're playing there, my friend.
I don't normally do that, but this time just things got away from me.
What'd you get her? She's not going to listen, right?
That's true. And it's tomorrow anyway. So, she's out with some friends right now.
They're all watching you at the bar. Watch. You're about to ruin the whole surprise. But go ahead. We're listening. We're
I got her some Marc Jacobs perfume, this book that she's really been wanting, and then I'm taking her to a fancy restaurant tomorrow night. My treat. Not putting it on our joint account or anything like that. This is coming right out of my paycheck.
Oh, Colin stepping up. Look at that. Now, how fancy we talking? Suit and tie, Sabaros, Chili's?
Somewhere in between there. Don't tease me with Chili's.
Somewhere between Sabaros and Chili's.
Look, I love
like a Long John Silver's.
The place is called Barbaret Bistro and Bakery.
It's got bistro in the name. Okay. And bakery, and it's open late at night. That's a fancy place. Two indications, yeah.
And it's and Barbaret, it's like Barbaret. So the ET.
So it's French.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fancy.
Okay. Oh, look at you. You go to French. Okay, maybe get some escargot.
Oh, because it's bakery. We're probably gonna get some croissants. At least that's what I want.
Some croissants. Very nice.
Yeah, we'll have to when Austin comes back. We'll have to hear what Colin didn't cook for dinner. Version of the show.
Mox, how you doing? Living the dream?
Yeah, I live in the dream. Can't complain. In my robe tonight, enjoying a nice Friday night.
Comfy gang.
Comfy gang in the beautiful state of North Carolina. We've had a really nice weather this week, and so I think we're going to get a little bit of what you and Felix had tonight. But so far, I mean, it's Friday. What do I have to complain about? I can complain about everything else, but on Friday's my pretzel day.
Love it.
Oh, nice. I love it. Yeah, so let's go. We've got some questions. I'm sure everybody loves us talking about Sabaros and fancy French restaurants. The boss probably doesn't. He's probably cursing at us right now at his phone, wherever he is
service right now.
Oh, he has, sir. He's always watching. Always.
He pulled out his satellite phone to watch.
Yeah. I mean, dude's over here making like 10K bets in our founders. Yeah, well, I want to get your guys' opinion on this, actually. We'll get to the questions in a minute. JSN, does he go over 2,000 yards in 2 seasons?
In 2 seasons?
Yeah, that was the bet we made in the chat. Well, I backed out. I'm not putting 10 grand down on anything. I'm with Austin in spirit. I'm not putting 10 grand down on anything.
Except Austin say yes.
An MVP. Yeah. So the bet was full season. They asked to be healthy, right? Play full season, 17 games. Barnabas said there's no way he breaks 2,000 yards in his first 2 years as a wide receiver. And Austin says he disagrees with that. He thinks he'll break it or go over by at least 100 to 200. I do agree with Austin. I think Jason's a lot. I mean, Moxley, we had this argument with, well, you're on Felix's side, but me and Felix argued about this for the BSN show. But yeah, I think he's going to be much better than people give him credit for, personally.
I agree with you. I think he's going to be good. I think the 2,000 line is a really good line. It's tough because it's going to depend on where he goes. and how his immediate path to playing time looks. Like if he ends up, let's say, I mean, I don't know if they're going to actually do this, but the Cowboys need some wide receiver help. Let's say the Cowboys take him. I see they have CeeDee Lamb there. I don't know if he would get there with that. I think he'd be close. But if he goes someplace, where they need some wide receiver help, if he goes to, I wanted to say Houston because they need wide receivers, but I don't think they'd have the quarterback to get him over that hump. I don't know if he goes to Green Bay and, Aaron Rodgers stays, I could see him hitting it.
I think if he goes to Dallas, there's a better shot he hits it. They don't have anybody besides CeeDee Lamb. I mean, it's going to suck for Lamb because I think he played a lot in the slot this year. I mean, the argument Felix was making last night is JSN can only play in the slot, which I disagree with. But if that's the case, I think he'll be fine.
So this is a no bet for me because I think 2,000 is the right line to set it at. But if I was to take a side,
you do. You have to take one. Pick one.
I know I do. It's just this is content. It's not me being a responsible bettor. I think I would go under. I think 800 yards the first season is fair, and then do you expect him to go to 1,200 season 2? Maybe not. I would lean under, but again, a responsible bettor would not bet this line, in my opinion.
Barnabas might be getting a nice Christmas present in 2 years, so good for him. All right, so Luke asked a question here, and I wonder if maybe he misunderstood what Matt was going to be on this show. We're going to try and answer this, though. Listening to Matt, big wide receiver guy, talk about velocity over expected, but where is the expected derived from? Moxley, you're the smartest one here. The two guys above you are really just here for good looks. Do you know? I don't. I'm going to do my best to answer this, Luke, because I've listened to Matt talk about this a lot, and Matt's probably going to correct me in a massive way later, but I'm almost positive he takes this based on a variety of different throws. It's not just how hard the throws are, but it's also throws that travel different distances and how quickly they get there based on angles and everything that they measure, which I know is part of it. And that's how they kind of, the expected is based on like I don't know that last part. I'm going to be honest. I guess I could ask him really quick, but yeah, you're asking the wrong Matt.
So yes, you are asking the wrong Matt. And I do have a definition if you give me 1 second to pull it up.
Oh, I have the definition. I could read that, I guess. That probably would have been the
That's exactly. I thought that was exactly what we're asking.
Oh, well, because he doesn't really bring up where it's derived from. So I don't know. The definition is by plotting players' relative positions on a 2D top-down field. That right there makes no sense to me, but we'll continue. We can measure the total air distance of a pass once it leaves the QB's hands, including diagonal distance. With this distance and total time the ball is in the air, we calculate the ball's average velocity during flight. The reason why we take it a step further from just velocity is because velocity is very correlated to distance. So based on the distance of the pass, we then adjust the ball velocity to get the velocity over expected.
Do you want me to dumb it down?
Yes, please do, because I swear I just read some NASA statement on a mission to Mars that just happened. I do want to
say I understand the 2D top-down field. So it's basically a two-dimensional field. So it's flat. It's like this. And top-down, you're looking at like, here's the line of scrimmage and you're throwing that way.
Yeah. It's like when you're on the ESPN app and you're trying to watch, like determine like where the ball is located and then like what happens the next play. That's what it is.
I'm a big dumb animal, folks. Just dumb it down for me.
Yeah. So that's 2D, right? The point that the second part of the equation is answering is, based on distance, quarterbacks throw at different speeds and the ball takes longer to get there. And so when we're talking about how long the ball takes to get there for a 40-yard pass versus like a 15-yard pass, we want to adjust for those sorts of things. I want to say, okay, the velocity might not be as high as on a 40-yard pass as it might be on, or other way around, probably. It might not be as high at a 40-yard pass because there's like touch and things that need to be involved in a longer pass versus a 10-yard pass. And you see those sorts of things come into play. So there's a different velocity expectation depending on the distance. So we want to be able to track that when we talk about average velocity, because it's not equivalent across all throws. That is the caveat basically that's being made, that like you don't chuck it the same thing if you're going 10 yards or 40 yards. If I want to, like, is that dumb enough? Like, did I dumb it down enough? Okay.
It's close. We're getting there. Well, we're going to move on because I feel like everybody else gets it. Doesn't matter if I get it or not. Robbie,
we can set up time to talk. We can talk about set up time.
No, that's good. Look, I'm not going to worry my freaking little head about it. We're just gonna. I'm gonna keep doing me. I'm gonna let you smart people keep doing you. That's just kind of the way I handle things here. How long? And I'm gonna throw this one to you first, Chris. How long should you wait before an anomaly becomes a trend that you need to alter your strategy?
This is a good question. And I saw him post this, so I appreciate it. It depends, and like this is a terrible freaking answer probably, but it depends on whether or not anomaly is correlated to a massive external change. And so one that I can think of is NIL and how that's impacting players. And I think it impacts players from a lot of different perspectives. So I don't want to downplay what NIL is doing, because I think that can have impacts in terms of like hit rate for older players, and players might be going to schools that they weren't previously, and there's a lot of impacts there, right? So if it's correlated to something that is an external factor that changed, I think you could start making decisions about it fairly quickly. When it comes to like an anomaly that is just exists, I'm very skeptical. Like I always give it a year and a half. If if there's a weird player who doesn't fit any of the thresholds that I'm looking at and like they break out, I'm like, give it a year and a half. Let's see what this player does. But in general, if it's precipitated by a previous change, then I will basically drop my priors. It really depends on the situation. That's a terrible answer, I know, but
no, I mean, that's probably the way I would lean too. You don't want to overreact to something you think is an anomaly right off the bat. You want to give it time to make sure that it is that. You don't want to just be like, oh no, I'm going to do this right now. So I agree with you. I typically wait probably a year as well, just to kind of see. And I probably don't even go full into making a massive adjustment either. I probably slowly make adjustments to that because I still am. It's just so hard to imagine the anomaly is going to continue. So for me, I'm very hesitant to do that stuff.
Yeah, I say year and a half, and I really mean a season and a half. If that clarifies anything for anyone, like not timeline wise, like actually, like I want to see you go through a season plus half a season. I'm trying to think of an example. Like I'm not totally sold on Quinshon Judkins until I see like another 6 games, like to put him into like the top 5 of a C2C Devi conversation, for example, like because he probably deserves to be here if we're just looking at raw stats, but he's not, and I think we're adjusting as such. So if we see another 6 games of it, then I think I'm ready to get there. And so I think that's an example of someone who I was just lower on, and Matt was much higher than I was, but I mean, I'm not totally abandoning my priors yet, but I probably will because I think he's a good player.
Yeah, I kind of give it about a season and a half to when I start to change my opinions on players in terms of like anomalies and like trends, like you were talking about with like NIL and things like that, and the transfer portal too. I'm probably a little bit quicker to adjust on that front. Like the transfer portal is changing so much about the college producer aspect of C2C and CFF leagues, where so much can change from one year to another year. Like Carson Steele going from a fantastic situation at Ball State where he's going to produce, entering into the portal, we have no idea where he's going to land. Now, fortunately, he landed at UCLA, and that's a place we feel pretty good about him producing, but he could have just as easily ended up at Auburn or ended up at, some other Tennessee or some other school where we would feel much worse about his CFF production. So I am, and Austin and I talked about this on one of the shows back when he was actually on the show. So he was saying that he's treating it more like a redraft. And I think I'm moving towards that way as well, where I'm not putting quite as much value on, how many years this guy has left of CFF production. So that is an example of a trend that I'm getting on board with quicker. So I think it really just depends on what the trend is.
No, we know, Luke. I'm just messing with you. I know you know the difference between us, Matt. So I'm just giving you a hard time. So Brian Ford here asks in the chat, one frustration I've had with C2C leagues is the college side waivers, either once a week or running twice a season. I want to manage my team as I see fit. Why don't more leagues do that? All right. We're about to get into
We're diving in.
I've been asking to stone people to death earlier this week on this exact issue, Brian, because I'm with you. So there's different prevailing theories on some of this, and every commissioner, a lot of people who play in these leagues feel differently about them. I am someone who doesn't want to necessarily deplete the college side with allowing weekly waivers to run. I do think that there is some, I like the strategy part of it because I do think there is more strategy in a C2C league on the college side than there is necessarily on the NFL side. Typically, even in dynasty leagues, there's not really that many players on the waiver wire unless you're running like a very thin, like roster size league. Like you're only having like 18 roster spots or something like that. Even with a 45-man roster on the college side, you will find, is it fair to say, easily a dozen players worth picking up every single year, if not more?
Oh, yeah.
So I personally like having some kind of limited waivers. Now, for me, the way I personally like to run them, I implemented this in our program league that we run that all of us are in. 48 teams now. We're about to add 12 more. I personally like you get 4 waiver moves a year, and it is fab based. You can make them at any time. Waivers open up week 1. They close whatever it is, week 10, 11, whenever the season ends, right before the conference championship games. You can make those 4 moves at any point you want as long as you have fab to make them. And I even allow $0 bids because you're still limited to 4. But if you use all your money on a couple players, then you better hope so no one else is bidding on you. I'll use an example. A couple years ago, we have $100 fab. I put in like 89 on Rasheen Ali after week 1 because I was like, I think this guy's going to be good. I want him. At the end of the year, I needed a running back to actually play and try and beat PJ in the conference championship game to get to the championship. And Austin beat me out for Jalen Warren, who I was trying to get, but I had no money. And I put a $0 bid. He put a $2 bid. He ended up getting Jalen Warren, and I ended up getting screwed because I didn't have another running back. So I don't really play. I think most of Austin's are unlimited waivers. So Colin, if you want to speak to that side of things, because I personally don't. Most of my leagues are that limited waivers, but the reasoning behind that stuff, Brian, is because people don't want to deplete the college pool. I am with you on the twice a season or once a week stuff. Like I am with you on that. I hate that personally, but.
Yeah, I hate that too. And I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think some people do say that the reason for limiting waivers is so you don't deplete the rookie pool on the NFL side. And honestly, I think that's just crap because I think what Chris said on Devy Debate is a really good point. It's already at the point where it really doesn't matter. You can find some gems here and there, like this year, Isaiah Pacheco. Was a guy that I'm sure was not on any rosters because it was a Rutgers running back. You know, Damian Pierce was a guy who wasn't on too many rosters. So those guys were available on your rookie side. I don't think it matters how many waiver wire pickups you have. Those types of guys will be there and other guys will not. The rookie pool, no matter whether you deplete you have unlimited waivers, whether you have limited waivers, the rookie pool is not that great anyway, but that's not the point of a Campus2Canton league.
I don't care about the rookie pool. I'm talking about, I like the limited because of in my opinion, the strategy it puts on the player pool on the college side. That's why I like the 4. I don't care about the rookie draft. Yeah, you're getting like 3 players most years. That part doesn't
Christian
matter.
Watson from FCS.
Yeah. If that's the way that's not the way I meant it.
Okay.
I like it more of like limiting. Because I also think for me, when I say draft, the supplemental draft means more as well with some of those. Like, for instance, in the program this year, you were able to get some more guys. A.T. Perry was in our draft pool. That's not there. He's not there if you have unlimited waiver wire. Because what some people do, and I know Austin does this, and I'll let you take the mic. Austin, like the last, which is a smart move by him. I'm not criticizing him. I know for a fact in a lot of his leagues where he has unlimited waivers, like the last 2 weeks, he cuts anybody he doesn't think is good and just grabs a ton of players that he thinks has upside. And then that kind of limits your supplemental draft pool on that side of things, on the college side. I don't care about the NFL at all.
Fair enough. So to that point, that definitely makes some more sense. I think in a league like the program, that matters because the program is a league where you recruit freshmen. The freshmen are not in that supplemental pool. So it makes sense to limit waivers in that league, because if you didn't, and there were no freshmen in that pool, and now you're having unlimited waivers and you can pick up whoever you want, like that supplemental pool is heavily depleted. But outside of a league like that, I'm in favor of unlimited waivers. I think unlimited waivers is the way to really see. It's a way to really reward the player, the managers who are doing the research, who are active, and they are checking in every single week. They are seeing that, Cam Wiley, a running back from Akron, was terrible at the beginning of the year, and then, maybe started to pick it up a little bit towards the end of the year. So you drop him, and then you pick him back up towards the end of the year. Or, a guy like Devontae Walker, who started to play well at the beginning of the year, you can go pick him up and you don't have to worry about, am I going to run across somebody later that I want more? So you can do the research and be earlier on a player. And that's what C2C is all about. It's all about being early. It's all about doing your own research and being the first on a guy and being on your guys and trusting your gut and your evaluation. So I think unlimited waivers really benefits those types of players, those types of managers. Now, I will say in beginner leagues, I understand the limited waivers because it can be very overwhelming at first. You're already diving in to this new format. There's so many other players. You're trying to keep your head above water as it is. Having to do all this research in season on the fly, it can be tough. So for beginner leagues, I'm okay with 5 pickups whenever you want them. 5 based. I like that. But for these like more veteran leagues, like just let it be a free for all. Take whoever you want, whenever you want.
So with the unlimited waivers, so Felix, and I think Moxley, you brought this up on Devy Debate when we talked about this, having unlimited waivers, but making it fab. So like once you run out of fab though, you can't make any more moves, which I don't mind that, because like I said earlier, if you make it to where you can't make even $0 bids in that as well, then there is still strategy involved in that. Even though it's unlimited, you have fab money. Once you run out of that money, you're done. Yeah,
I'm in favor of that. Sorry, I should have clarified that.
Moxley, any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have a solution. I'm just going to complain. So whatever. I understand so many different sides of this, and in Campus2Canton leagues specifically, not CFF leagues, I am of the belief that if one team wanted to each week, they could pick up a roster that would win that week versus another team. And I think you can do that. And I think there's reasons why we don't or we can't, but open waivers to me has just always been like, I don't know. I don't have the solution. I don't know if I love open waivers though. Like I think I don't want to limit. I'm not in favor of the weekly format at all. Like a certain week you have to pick up players. Don't like that. Hate that. Think it's terrible. But a limited number of pickups, even I think 4 is probably too little. But even if it was like 10 or like 12 or something, like you at least preserve the integrity of the college fantasy side, because there's a huge difference between like Devy assets, C2C assets, and CFF assets. And there are so many CFS assets on waivers that aren't picked up because of the format. And I think if you wanted to, you could probably all waiver team every single week could probably win the championship. So like, I understand the hesitation to totally open it up. I don't have a solution, but I understand both sides. I'm neutral in this battle. I do think there some sort of limit would be good.
All right, so Brian asks another question here, or it says another frustration is what I see as the overvaluing of college side guys in cross league trades. Everyone knows it, everyone admits to it, no one stops zigging when they zag. It kind of defeats the purpose. I don't know. I don't do a lot of trading, if I'm being honest, in C2C league. So, or when I do, it's usually like it's a college side, but I'm trading like college for college. I rarely do like NFL for college players. I don't like that in general because I feel like you already have a proven asset in the NFL guy and you're taking a shot on the college guy. So I don't see a lot of that. So I don't really have an opinion on that. I mean, Mox, Colin, you guys, anything?
Yeah. So I am more aggressive when it comes to trading. I will, depending on where my team is at, I will try to be the first person to market and first person to make these trades. Because one, it helps you set the market a little bit better. You control that more. But two, it also helps you set yourself up and build yourself up for the future. So on the college side, everybody does tend to overvalue their own college players. But I think that's just true in all leagues. Everybody does tend to overvalue their own players.
Like Quinn Ewers, right? That comes to mind specifically.
Yes. Jalen McMillan.
Yes. Everybody tends to, and I didn't even mean like my guys, like in your guy, like the guys like that we like NFL perspective. I just mean like the players on your roster. Yeah. Even in dynasty leagues, people overvalue the players that they have on their roster compared to, another team's players. So you see a little bit of that anyway. But in terms of the college players, I think it's rookies, but it's like the rookie draft season where everybody gets rookie fever and everybody thinks that their player has this sky high potential and they're going to hit this ceiling and they're going to be the next Jamar Chase. They're going to be the next Cooper Kupp or whoever. They're going to be this like high end asset. And the odds that they hit that are low. And we know that. But we want to believe that they're going to hit that because they're our guy. So there is more inherent bias towards your own players, but then you also really want to see that guy hit the ceiling. So everybody does overvalue the college players, and it is really hard to overcome that when you're in trade negotiations, which is one of the things that makes cross-league tradings extremely difficult. So there's not really like a good solution to try to convince people that their player sucks because that their player isn't this diamond when you're trying to trade for them because everybody hates that guy. But I think that you have to try and find partners who just kind of jive with your team. I think that's the better way to go about it. Like where I'm rebuilding on the college side and they're rebuilding on the NFL side, but they're good on the college side, like that's where you can find some good value and you actually get trades done. If you're just trying to specifically target a player, it's much, much harder.
I think that's fair. I'm not even sure that in all the leagues that I am in and how long I've been playing that I have made a cross league trade. I'm trying to think if I have. It's like, I just don't do that. I am certainly not moving an NFL asset out unless I'm getting like a top 2 round C2C like startup pick. And even then it's like a little bit dicey. Like you're taking so much risk when you do that sort of move, even if you're getting like a treasure trove of assets back, like you really just, it's really risky. And so I don't like to, I personally don't do that. I would much rather move a college side player for like a freshman supplemental pick and just say, hey, I'll give you an 8th round pick for DeCorian Clark, the wide receiver out of UTSA, right? Like I think those sorts of trades make a lot of sense when you're talking about it. It's so hard to match across sides. And I do not want to be the person moving the NFL asset out. And if I can maybe get in a deal on an NFL asset, then I would, but I don't really approach leagues that way either. Like I almost view them as 2 different leagues in totality. And I know that you can trade cross league. I just very rarely do. It's just so hard to pull off.
It is
in my opinion. So it's just, but I think people, I don't know. It also, there's a lot of nuance to this too. Like, it depends on what the pot between the two leagues are like, right? So like if it's skewed towards the NFL, like there's no chance I'm moving like an NFL asset. But if it's 50-50, I might move like what's a good example? A Juju Smith-Schuster for the final year of Zachary Franklin. I don't even know if that's a fair deal or not, but like with maybe a pick or two on the side, like that's the sort of trade that you're considering. And again, it's so hard. It's just so hard to pull off. And it just depends on so many factors, like the payout between the two leagues.
Yeah, I think payout's a good point. I think the way I view it is I want to win a championship. I don't necessarily, as long as if it's 50-50, I want to win a championship. I don't really care if it's on the NFL side or the college side. So whichever team like I'm closer with, like I'll start moving some other assets. Now, obviously the dream is, like you said, moving a supplemental pick in this upcoming year for a college producer who has 1 year left. Moving like you said, like a fifth for Zachary or for Decorian Clark or whatever it ended up being. Like that's the dream. When you can get that, that's easy. But it's not always easy to get that. So I don't have a problem moving the Juju Smith-Schusters, the Tony Pollards, the David Njoku's, depending on whatever position is, guys who are like fringe starters on the NFL side. Like they definitely have some starting value, but they're not like a stud. I don't have a problem moving them for college pieces, but I want to have a very clear goal in mind. So it either needs to be this player that I'm getting or these two players that I'm getting, put my team on the CFF side over the top, and I will be by far the best team over there, and I should win that title. Now, obviously, anything can happen, but I should win that title because I am by far the best team. Or I'm resetting my NFL side. I'm moving one of those aging guys, and I'm going to get, 3 Devy assets that I feel pretty good about. There's an example that I had in my one league where my NFL team was absolutely terrible. And I traded, this was like 2 years ago. I traded Nick Chubb and Calvin Ridley, and I got back a supplemental first. I got back Zach Evans, Raheem Jarrett, Jaden Daniels, and then there was Parker Washington or something like that. So I took a lot of bites at the apple. Those guys, some of them hit, some of them didn't.
Sounds like you lost that trade, though.
I mean, Calvin Ridley?
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb. I mean, I don't know if I trade all his assets for Nick Chubb.
Well, the first ended up being Marvin Harrison Jr., so.
Okay. Well, thanks for filling us in after the fact.
Yeah. I mean, now that's a crucial part of the thing there to leave out. Even your dog's upset that you left that out. He's disappointed in you.
So the one thing I'll say about all that is, and Ken in the chat said it, is like, you are accepting a substantial amount of risk because there's so much more variance in college. Like Rasheen Ali sat out all season and we didn't know why. Like it turned out he was injured, but like they said personal matter and then they said all this stuff and then he came back and he didn't get the starting job, but he was drafted as like a top 5 pick in CFF drafts and we like a top 5 round pick in Campus2Canton drafts. And so like there's a substantial amount of variance when we talk about college fantasy that you need to pay a premium to get an NFL asset. Like you cannot, whatever you think you're charging somebody else, like add 20% to that when you're trading across leagues. Like it's incredibly risky. And I've talked about this. I've wrote about this. I've talked about the idea that we don't actually know anything about college fantasy football. And like, we're just basically making educated guesses. And like so many things can happen off the field, on the field, etc. Where I don't feel comfortable unless I feel like I'm getting a steal. I need to feel I'm getting a steal. I am not interested in a fair deal. Straight up. Like I just won't trade that way. Scared money don't make money.
I mean, it's definitely, it's hard to do. Like, so I went back through what Colin was talking about his and looked just because I knew I had made a couple. It was 2 years ago. And it's in the program league where I made these trades. And it was almost the exact same thing. Now, it worked out for me in a massive way because my team was in 6th place. I didn't think I was going to make the playoffs, and I wanted to sell off to get some younger pieces. I ended up winning the league this year. I traded Adam Thielen and Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones at this point, now this is 2 years ago. Aaron Jones was playing very well. I got back Drake London, Chris Olave, Marquez Cooper, Jaden Daniels, and a first and second round supplemental pick. Ended up being, and again, this is extremely depleted. Like, I didn't get great players with that 1 and 2, but like Drake London and Chris Olave ended up working out for me. There was a lot of concern about what those two guys would be, though, going into the NFL. So, like, you are, as Chris said, you're taking a shot. And Cannon said as well, like, I did it because I was like, I believe Drake London and Chris Olave are going to get first-round draft capital. They're going to be very good, but I didn't know. And then the other trade, I mean, I really flipped it, and this was just because I moved to Jai Hall and got Zeke, and that was just because I wanted to get out of Hall, and they wanted to get out of Zeke, and then ended up working out because Zeke ended up having a really good rest of the season. But, excuse me, it is hard to kind of make those moves because you're taking a massive risk moving an NFL player for a college player. Even if you were to move someone and say get a CJ Stroud this year before the draft, you're still taking a pretty big bet. Even though we expect CJ Stroud to go first round, you don't know what he's going to be like in the NFL. We expect him to be good, but you don't know that. So if you move, say, this is a bad idea. I was going to say Tua. We don't know what's going to happen with Tua either. If you move like a middling QB2, Kirk Cousins, like, I would much rather have Kirk Cousins right now than CJ Stroud. And I love CJ Stroud. You would take Stroud over Cousins? If it's straight up, if I offered you CJ Stroud for Kirk Cousins, you would take CJ Stroud?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know about
that. I would. I don't
Mox,
think...
you're muted.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Mox.
I think I would do that right now, but I remember I was on a show that we had on WWE maybe last February, so like over a year ago. I asked you if you would take Kirk Cousins or Sam Howell, and I was vehemently against taking Kirk Cousins. I was very much Sam Howell camp. I was pretty adamant about it too at the time. So that was obviously a mistake.
Well, we don't know. Sam Howell's going to start this year, I think.
That's true. Maybe if he starts this year, but process wise, like, it was a mistake. And so there's, even when you don't think there's risk is kind of the bottom line. Now, I am like, I hate these. I don't want to say I hate because it's Austin's whole shtick. I don't agree with the don't take a quarterback early, like wait on QB thing, because we got burned a couple times because we haven't burned other positions. It's maybe not as prominent because they're not like SuperFlex leagues, but risk across the board is higher than everybody probably thinks it is. If you think you're getting a deal on a player, that's when you pull the trigger, not when it's even. Never make an even trade if you're trading NFL assets. Bottom line.
See, I think there's risk. There's risk everywhere. There's always risk in trades. And I mean, obviously, that's kind of an oversimplification, but there's risk everywhere. So I trust myself. I trust my evaluations. I trust that the move that I am making is making my team better. As long as the move that I am making makes my team better, and it's not like a ridiculous offer or anything like that, but as long as the trade I am making makes my team better, I don't care. I don't care. I'm willing to quote unquote lose a trade if I think that my team is better today with that trade than it will be without it. So I'm willing to take some more risks and be more aggressive with it.
All right, so we had another interesting question here, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up here. Given that RB's careers are significantly shorter than wide receivers and quarterbacks, doesn't it make sense to shy away from that position early on the college side of your startups? Now, Mox, I know you are all about 10 QBs in the first 11 rounds. So, but what are your thoughts on the running back position? Because I vehemently disagree with this point, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
I think, it's kind of trended a little bit differently in recent years, but if you have a game-breaking running back, that's more valuable than a wide receiver. Just because the points per game drop off is lower as you like the slope is a lot steeper when you talk about running backs versus wide receivers. So like a replacement level wide receiver from like wide receiver 12 to wide receiver like 36 is not as nearly as large as it is for the running back position. And so I have no problem taking running backs, and I'm looking at like 2 or 3 year windows max. I just don't care about like the shelf life of a player. Like you have a player for like 5 years versus like 7 years. Like what do I care? Like that doesn't matter to me in any capacity. I've always found the wide receivers last longer argument to be like a non-starter for me. I just disagree with it. Unless the player's just absolutely better. Like if they're just a better player, then they're just a better player. Just
if you're sitting there and it's between Marvin Harrison or Travion Henderson, you're taking Marvin Harrison. Like that's not, at least in my opinion, an argument. But I know, so I'm with you on that. Like for me, it's because you also don't know if that league's going to last 7 years. Like you said, I'm going to take this wide receiver because he's going to last. You don't know the league's going to be around in 7 years. We see leagues fold all the time. But I'm with you on the running back thing. You know, I brought that up on Devy Debate. And we talked a little bit about Ruben Owens, a guy that I would use as a starter. Everybody's worried about him because he's already old and he's going to be old when he gets into the NFL. I just want him for his rookie contract when he gets in the NFL. And if he does anything after that, great. I don't care. Like, I just want him to produce for me on college and then get me through his rookie contract and we'll move forward from there. Like for me, as Chris mentioned, I also feel like the pool is just so much more shallow of those top end running backs. So if I can get a couple of those guys, you have a massive advantage at that position where if these wide receivers come out, we've seen it the past couple of years of these rookie drafts. Christian Watson, if you had him, you probably would have had to draft him because most don't allow FCS players on your team. But if you drafted him with like your first or second pick overall in that rookie draft, he was so bad to start the season, you could have turned around and traded for him for less than you could have gotten any of those running backs. If Kenneth Walker, you still had to pay a premium for, even though he was not starting for Seattle. So I think the value on those running backs is a lot higher early than it is on wide receivers. If you really want to go get wide receiver, go get him later after he stops producing, because it's rare that these guys come out firing. Even Garrett Wilson, slow off the mark. And Marvin Harrison's probably not going to be, but you're taking him over most running backs anyways at this point. So like those special guys, I'm with Chris. You take them. Otherwise, I'm going running back. I don't care about the shelf life.
Yeah, I think it's all about the peak, honestly. I'm not as concerned about the shelf life, but what is this player's like peak? Like what is this player going to put up for me on a weekly basis? You know, are they going to be a top 5, top 10 player? Okay, then great. Like that's what I want. You know, I don't care if they're going to be a top 15 player for the next 8 years. I want a top 5 player for the next 3 years. Like that's what I'm looking at. So whichever player can get me that top like number, like that's what I want. So whether that's a running back position, whether it's a wide receiver position, I don't really care. And I do think having these elite running backs, like Chris was saying, kind of like the value over replacement for running backs. And it's something that we just, if you're in a C2C league, you probably got there through playing NFL Dynasty. And if you have dove this far down the hole, you probably inherently at least understand the concept of value over replacement, and that peak running backs are more valuable than wide receivers. Like having an elite running back is just that much more valuable, and tight end too, same way. Having an elite tight end is just more valuable. So I don't care about the longevity. I want that elite number, and I want the player that has the higher value over replacement, which does actually end up being running backs in a lot of situations. So I don't shy away from running backs early.
All right, 2 more questions. I feel like this is an easy answer for all 3 of us, but I'm just going to put it up here. Chris, who's your favorite co-founder? I mean, if you need a minute, I can give you mine. It's Jarek Backus, baby.
Yeah.
We're nothing without Jarek. I mean, You're muted, by the way, Mox. But I mean, if you're muted, Mox.
I've done that twice now. Yeah, it's Jarek. I mean, that's easy. Like he's the Wizard of Oz when they finally reveal Oz, and it's like just some dude pulling strings. That's Jarek on the entire website.
Yeah, I mean, I love all you guys, but like without Jarek, we're closing up shop tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I mean, we are. And you know what, Colin, I'm going to give you some love too. Without Colin, with all the back end stuff, we're set. We're closing up shop tomorrow.
True. You can find somebody to replace what I do easier than you could find somebody what Jarek does. Jarek is the only one of us who's completely unreplaceable. So yeah, it's definitely Jarek. And Jarek also just a great guy.
He is. He's
the best.
He was fun at the expo. Me, Mox, and Jarek at that dive bar until like 2 a.m. That was a lot of fun.
2 a.m. in some random dive bar in Canton, Ohio, just living life.
Yeah, that was a fun day, especially just seeing you guys the day after was a lot.
We did that. We did that Kings Classic CFF draft right after.
We were a little barely alive.
Yeah. Yeah, that part is very true. Yeah, and Felix was definitely asleep. Yeah, that was a fun morning. Just real quick, going down there and like Colin's there. I'm there. Colin looked like he had not been affected at all. Jared came strolling in like 30 minutes later with a coffee in hand, looking all like he was living the life. We're all
I think
down
he showed
there.
up with like sunglasses on.
And then Moxley just comes strolling. It looked like he just got out of bed. He's like cursing life. We were just like, oh man, what happened? And then Felix was just asleep. And it was like 11 o'clock in the morning too.
Yeah.
Just asleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Probably
and then I don't want to name names. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here, but about 2 hours into the draft, multiple people came down drunk at like 11 a.m.
Well, yeah, that was we can thank Mike Valerie for that with the Kalamazoo promise. Those were hitting hard up in the hotel room. So
yeah. By the way, that's a I don't think we have it on the site, but if you're an NIL member, you get the Kalamazoo promise recipe.
And it's worth
which
it.
is the official drink of Campus2Canton.
I'm not a big drinker, but those things, those were good. While we were watching soccer too, Brent, your Brentford,
Brighton versus Man U, right?
Yeah, Man U got spanked, unfortunately. Yeah, your Brentford.
Go Bees, buzz.
That's right. All right, last question before we get out of here. Rob Underwood asks, multiple picks in the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th of a supplemental with a competitive NCAA side, but struggling NFL side. Made deals to trade away. I'm guessing he's asking make deals to trade away Cup, Henry, JT, and Rogers, or use picks or trade for NFL. That's a good question. I mean, if your NCAA side, if your college side is good, I think I'm using the picks and keeping my college side strong because those guys are eventually going to make it up to your NFL team. So if your NFL team ages out having Cup, JT, and Rogers, because I still think JT and Rogers are going, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Cup, are going to be good for probably 2 more years. Rogers, we'll see where he goes. What Henry is that? Is that Hunter
Derrick,
Henry?
probably.
Derrick Henry?
I think it was Derrick Henry.
I'd trade Derrick Henry, although I think that dude's going to die on the football field. He's so good. Like I don't know that
Tom Brady of running.
Yeah, I don't want to doubt him.
I mean, he's not the goat, but like I'm just saying, he's the guy that we keep saying like he's gonna fall off a cliff. He's gonna fall off a cliff, and he doesn't.
Yeah. I've said that 3 years straight, and that dude slapped me in the face every single year. He's been amazing. So I think I would just continue to let my NFL team age out and keep the competitive. That's the reason I love this format. You can still go win a championship on your college side. It sounds like, and if you've got multiple picks in the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th with as deep as this quarterback and wide receiver class is in general, I would just take the picks and try and build out a solid college side. And then if you have extra pieces, if you want to make a move at that point to get an NFL piece to help get you closer to competing, do it. But I don't think I'm moving those picks. And even if you do, wait till the draft gets here because that value increases so much. If, say, you're sitting there in the 2nd round and a Nico falls into the 2nd round and someone really wants him, they may be willing to overpay to come up and get that pick. So I would hold on to the picks, at least for now. If you really want to trade them, hold it till the draft gets here.
Yeah, I would hold them too because, like you said, with this quarterback class, this is a historically good freshman quarterback class. There are 5 quarterbacks in the top 12 prospects in the country. Arch, Nico, Dante Moore, Malachi, and Jackson Arnold are all within the top 12 recruits in the country. That has literally never happened before. And there are tons of great wide receivers at the top of this class as well. There's 5 wide receivers that I have as my tier 1 wide receivers. So that is 10 players that I think are really, really good just at the quarterback and wide receiver position. There's a couple good running backs as well. But I think the top of this freshman class is really strong. So especially those seconds, I think you're going to get some value. And then obviously there's always guys that are around, your Riley Leonards from Duke, that he might still be around. Kind of some guys like that, they might still be floating around out there. So I would keep those picks as well. And at least until you're on the clock, like Matt was saying.
I agree. Oh. No, basically no argument there. Like I think if your NCAA side is competitive, then just try to flip those players either for NFL picks or even younger NFL players and take the upside. Like if your NCAA side is good, like don't mess around. It sounds like, and you can rebuild through the supplemental. I honestly just keep doing what your plan is. I think you're on the right track.
And I forgot to post this earlier, but I feel like Colin actually just kind of inadvertently answered Luke's question as well, somewhat on he asked an average of the 23 QB class historically dating back to against the 22 class. I mean, it's much better. I think that's fair to say. There's a lot. I mean, really,
what was the last class that was as good as this one? Do you have one in recent memory? Because I don't.
No, I mean, I'm trying to think of how good 21 and 20 was, and nothing's coming to mind. I mean, 20, what was that? That was Caleb and McCord in May. I mean, you're looking at what right now? It's just Caleb. I mean, Quinn got bumped in because he reclassified, but you're looking at, so maybe that class has a chance to be somewhat good. I mean, we already know Caleb
not
as
recruits,
but but not as good because you've got Kyle. I mean, Kyle was up there, but who am I? Again, Quinn reclassified, but Drake May was below all those guys. Drake May was below guys who are not even starting at this point. So
he was like quarterback 9 in his class.
Yeah, it was low. And then last year's class, I mean, we only had 3 quarterbacks in our tier 1, and one of them was Quinn Ewers. And it was only, I mean, so, and he wasn't supposed to be in there. So this has a chance. What's even more insane, I know we're getting supposedly 24's quarterback class is going to be even better. So we'll see. We haven't quite jumped into that class just yet. All right, last one, I promise, because we got to go. Anyone know a website with a lot of guides and ranks and data and a Discord where I can find help with all this and not have to scout 8th graders on 24/7? Yeah. Campus2Canton.com. Campus2Canton.com. Thank you, Brian, for that.
Thanks, Brad.
Shout out. Yeah, and I hope you're enjoying the guide as well. If you guys can get that guide, if you want to see all these freshmen, it is at Campus2Canton.com. $20, a ton of information in there. Max VOE, which we talked about, 8 pages of mile per hour on running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. So you can find out how fast those guys run. We do have a Max VOE page for almost all the quarterbacks that Matt and David were able to track, including guys who did not even make it in the guide as a write-up. So if there's a guy you just want, looks like has special arm talent that we didn't write up and you want to take a shot at him, you can go find that as well in the guide. Depth charts in there. It was a lot of fun to do, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Might do these more often. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Get the robe gang together. Maybe we get Austin and Felix on here one night wearing robes and see. Well, I mean, it's probably a bad idea, Felix, because he won't be wearing an undershirt. It'll just be the robe. So
that's true.
I know. That's why I'm doing the intermittent fasting. I got to get all slim for our race here in Canton. I'm gonna beat him, and it's gonna be fun to watch his world crumble as Short Matt beats him in a race. All right. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us for a little bit. We will talk to you guys again soon. Look out for the spring practice reports. That will be dropping here in a little bit.